Before I dive into this wild story, let me ask you, where are you watching from? Drop a comment below with your country or city, and if you've ever had a run-in with a Karen, or better yet, a racist Karen, go ahead and smash that like button. Oh, and don't forget to hit subscribe. I've got some more drama-filled content over on my second channel, so check the link in the description if you're into that kind of thing. Alright, let's get into it. So, I've been the chief of police in this small town of Oak Ridge for almost 8 years now. But, I'm telling you, nothing could have prepared me for what happened on that Tuesday morning back in May. It was one of those mornings, you know? The kind where the sun's coming up, trying to make up for every single cold winter day in one shot. Beautiful, warm, and perfect, or so I thought. I'm Elijah Washington, and I've been on the force for 23 years. Spent the last 8 years as chief. I've handled pretty much everything. Fights, traffic accidents, robberies, you name it. But nothing prepared me for Patricia Simmons. She moved in just 3 months ago. And to be honest, I thought I knew exactly what I was getting into. Another entitled neighbor, right? I was wrong. That morning started just like any other. I was up at 5:30 a.m., got my workout in, showered, and I was sipping my coffee, ready to head to the station. It was early, and as I stepped outside to grab my car keys, I noticed something odd: water pooling next to the side of my house. I thought, great, another leak. Sure enough, my garden hose had burst, and water was spraying everywhere. That's when I muttered under my breath, damn it. I looked at my watch. I had an important budget meeting in 45 minutes. There was no time to let this water damage sit. So, I quickly ran down to the basement to shut off the main water valve. Problem solved, but it was going to be something I'd have to deal with later when I got home. I was heading to my car, not in my patrol vehicle today, but in my personal Dodge Charger. I was just about to get in when my phone buzzed. Lieutenant Rodriguez sent me a text with some last-minute changes to the meeting agenda, and as I was responding, I noticed her Patricia Simmons storming across our lawns like a hurricane, only she was wrapped in nothing but a purple bath towel. I'll give it to her, she sure knows how to make an entrance. This woman was mad. And I mean mad. I could see her blonde hair still covered in shampoo suds, making a mess of bubbles everywhere as she marched right toward me. Her face was turning redder than a fire truck, and she pointed a finger at me like she was about to accuse me of the worst crime imaginable. You, she screamed, the vein in her neck almost popping out. What the hell do you think you're doing? I looked around, confused. Excuse me. Don't play dumb with me, she shot back. You turned off my water while I was in the shower. I was stunned. So, I tried to explain. Mrs. Simmons, I turned off the water because there's a leak in my garden hose, I said, gesturing to the side of my house where water was still leaking. I've got to get to work, but I'll fix it when I get home this evening. But that didn't seem to satisfy her. No, instead, she let out a laugh, a high-pitched, manic laugh that made my skin crawl. Oh, that's rich. You expect me to believe that? With that fake uniform and fake badge? I looked down at my uniform, the same one I've worn for years, complete with my chief of police badge, earned after decades of hard work and dedication. Mrs. Simmons, I said calmly, I am the chief of police for Oak Ridge. This is my uniform, and I'm heading to work. Now, why would turning off my water affect your shower? She narrowed her eyes. Because my water wasn't working when I moved in, she spat. The plumber I hired connected my line to yours temporarily until the city could fix the main line to my property. Everyone in the neighborhood knows this. Wait, what? I hadn't heard about any of this. This was news to me, and based on what she said, it sounded completely unauthorized and likely illegal. You did what? I started to ask, but before I could finish, Patricia did something I never saw coming. She gathered whatever moisture she could in her mouth and spat directly at me. I felt the warm saliva hit my cheek, slowly trickling down toward my collar. I've been trained for 23 years to keep my cool in situations like this, and let me tell you, every instinct I had wanted to lash out. But I stayed calm. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a handkerchief, and wiped my face. Mrs. Simmons, I'm going to have to ask you to return to your property immediately. What you just did constitutes assault on a police officer, and I'm choosing to give you a warning this time." She didn't seem to care. Instead, she laughed hysterically, moved even closer, and said, "Officer, please. I know what you people do. You dress up like cops to intimidate us. Well, it won't work on me." And as if spitting wasn't enough, she lunged at me, her hand outstretched, nails aimed directly at my face. I caught her wrist before she could make contact, a reflex from years of training. "That's enough," I said sternly. "Return to your home now, or I will place you under arrest." She yanked her arm away from me and stepped back, her towel slipping slightly before she caught it. The look in her eyes wasn't just anger anymore. No, it was pure hatred. And I could tell right then that this wasn't about water. This wasn't even about the towel. This was about race. It always was with people like Patricia. As she turned and stormed off, she pointed at me again, shouting, "This isn't over. You'll regret this. I'm calling the real police." And that's when I knew it. This was only the beginning. I called dispatch, told them to send a unit over to my address for a possible assault and unauthorized waterline connection, and to bring a camera. This was going to need documentation. Little did I know, things were about to get even stranger. Halfway to the station, my radio crackled to life. "Chief, you're not going to believe this, but we just received a 911 call from your address." I slowed down, confused. "My address? What's the call about?" Janice, our dispatcher, took a deep breath. "The caller claims there's an armed black man impersonating a police officer at 1437 Cedar Lane. She says he's threatening her and has cut off her utilities to intimidate her." My heart sank. "Let me guess," I muttered. "Blonde hair, purple towel, about 50 years old?" "That would be her, Chief," Janice replied. I sighed and put my foot on the gas. "Send Rodriguez and Patel. This needs to be handled by the book. Every interaction recorded, every procedure followed to the letter." I arrived home and saw Patricia standing in front of her house again, now in yoga pants and a bright pink sweatshirt with "Blessed" written across her chest in glitter. She was on the phone, gesturing wildly toward my house. When she saw me, she froze, then turned her back to me deliberately. Within minutes, a patrol car pulled up, and Lieutenant Rodriguez and Officer Patel stepped out. I greeted them with a nod, trying not to let the absurdity of the situation get to me. "Chief, this is about a police impersonator?" Rodriguez asked. I nodded, trying to stay calm. "Yeah, and this," I said, gesturing toward Patricia, "is my neighbor, Patricia Simmons." The next few minutes were pure chaos. Patricia launched into a tirade about how I'd been harassing her, how I'd cut off her water, how I was abusing my position as chief of police. I let her speak because I knew that the truth was on my side. Rodriguez, ever professional, turned to Patricia. "Ma'am, we need to ask you some questions." That's when things really started unraveling. I won't drag you through every detail of the interrogation, but it didn't take long for things to completely fall apart for Patricia. The plumber she'd hired didn't even connect her water line properly, and the man she accused of stealing her water was me. I hadn't touched her water. In fact, her unauthorized connection had been the problem from the start. But the real kicker? Her attorney, Harrison Daniels, showed up. He was trying to save her, trying to protect her from her actions. But it didn't work. The documentation was clear, the witnesses were there, and Patricia's entire story was crumbling. That night, I got an unexpected knock on my door. Harrison Daniels handed me a cease and desist letter. Patricia was suing me for harassment. The irony was almost laughable. It wasn't over yet, but I had the truth on my side. Fast forward to a week later, Patricia had moved out, leaving Oak Ridge behind. Her replacement was a family that actually understood what it meant to be neighbors. Patricia left a wake of destruction, but she also unwittingly gave me a chance to show the world that, sometimes, the best way to deal with people like her is simply to stand tall, stay calm, and let the truth speak for itself. By the end of the week, I was getting a call from Ridgewood's police department. They were having their own problems with Patricia. I guess some people never change. The mayor called me, and the next morning things were being blown out of proportion. but my handling of the situation was being praised. It felt good to have everything on track. The lesson? Justice doesn't always come quickly or easily, but when it does, it's the truth that sets things right. So, what do you think? How would you have handled this situation? Drop your thoughts below, let's talk about it. And don't forget to subscribe, because there's always more drama around the corner.